Okay, this is lesson 15, and we're in the middle of the sugya of avidin shtinol nafshi. Is a person allowed to take the law in his own hands? Reb Nachman said that a person is, and Rabbi Yehuda holds that he's not. And that machlokes is only when going to Bezdin will not cause a loss. If going to Bezdin would cause a loss, then Rabbi Yehuda would agree that he's allowed to take the law into his own hands. Okay, so we're going to do this Tashma. It starts right here. Let's make a different color so we see what we're doing. Tashma, and we're going to finish right over here. Okay, so Tashma, come in here. Don't look at the top right now. Tashma, that's an abbreviation. Tashma, come in here. We're going to bring a proof to Rav Nachman and a question on Rav Yehuda. And the proof goes like this, quoting a brisa, Minayin, from where do we know, I wrote that in on top, from where do we know, Lenirza, that a slave, that his ear was pierced with an awl, because he wanted to continue to stay after the 6 years. He wanted to stay with his new family, a shifcha knanis that his master was allowed to give him, this non-Jewish maidservant. He was allowed to, he would live with her and they would have children which would belong to the master. For whatever reason, this person wanted to stay on. And so the halacha was that he gets his ear pierced with an awl. And Rashi over there, the Gemara tells us that the reason why he gets his ear pierced is because he was told that he should only be an eved to Hashem. And there he goes and he sells himself willingly as an eved to another person. So the ear that heard that gets pierced. So it's a type of slave. A nirtza is a type of slave. So from where do we know lenirtza, that this type of slave, shekal yamav, that his days have ended? I wrote over there, ended. Yamav is his days. And which means that it became yovel. Put that on the side. Yovel. Yovel means the 50 years. After 50 years, he has to leave no matter what. That's what the pasuk says. V'avadei loyolam. Loyolam means 50 years. And so his days are up. V'rabbi misrahiv b'lotzes, and his master is urging him. The word misrahiv by is urging him to leave. V'chaval, he hits him. V'asa by chabur, and he creates and he makes a bruise in him. Bruise. Also by Chabur makes a bruise in him. Shehu pater. It's like a long sentence. Minayin shehu pater. It's a run-on sentence. From where do we know that this person is pater? The master is pater for making that bruise. Again, he's bruising a person that's his own slave, but his time's up and he's supposed to be leaving. The guy's not leaving. So where do we know that he's pater, that he doesn't have to pay for that damage? So Talmud Laimar. That's an abbreviation. I'll write it in over here. Let's find the spot. Talmud Laimar means a teaching. Here it's referring to a pasuk. Says, Talmud Laimar, teaching says, Lesikhu kaifer lashuv. This pasuk has a pshat, and it also has a drash. It's a pshat, and it has a drash. We'll put the drash over here. The pshat of the pasuk is that someone that killed by b'shoigig, it wasn't intentional, and he has to go to Galus. He has to go to an Ari Miklat. So he has to stay in the Ari Miklat, in this city of refuge, until the Kohen Gadol dies. So the pasuk says, "Lesikhu kaifer lashuv." Do not take an atonement for him to return, to leave before the Kohen Gadol dies. Lesikhu kaifer. Sikhu means don't take. Loi means don't. Tikhu is take. Don't take. A kaifer is an atonement, like comes from the word kapara. And here it's actually referring to money. So I'll put a dollar sign there so you'll remember. Don't take money and allow him to return, like to pay for whatever the guy was worth or something, to return before the Kohen Gadol dies. Lashuv means to return. Let's make a little stress on this lamed. The lamed here means to return. But however, the drash says leisikhu kaifer lashav. Don't take an atonement or money lashav, and now lashav means not only to, but it means for a person that's returning. Now, either he's returning to being an eved, or there's two pshatim in Rashi. Let's just move over to that Rashi so you can see that. Lashav, the first pshat, drushba means you should interpret it. Lashav is lemisha reitza lashav lekilkuloi v'liyeseva. That's the first pshat. Someone that wants to return to his kilkul, which means his kilkul is like something messed up, to his bad ways, and to be an eved. Lishnachrina, the second pshat is Lashav lemisha dina liyeshav el mishpachtei, someone whose rule is that he should be returning to his family, ve'ina reitza, but he doesn't want to. So whatever it is, it's someone that's returning either to being an eved, or it's someone that's supposed to return to his family but isn't doing that. Okay. Now, so we know from this pasuk that don't take money from him for him. Don't take money for the slave that's being beaten in order to leave. He does not deserve any money. He's supposed to leave. The pasuk says, this person, that's this eved that should have left, does not get money. Don't take money for him. So here we have a proof for our question. The question was, how do we know that he doesn't have to pay? Talmud Leimer, the pasuk tells us that the master doesn't have to pay. However, this brisa teaches me that the master was allowed to take the law into his own hands, which means that we now have a question. There's now a question on Rav Yehuda, who holds that a person's not allowed to take the law into his own hands. Now, do we really see that he's allowed to take the law into his own hands? It seems that all we see is that the person who did take the law into his own hands is pater. Somehow, to check out the Mefarshim, but somehow the Gemara understands that if he's pater, it must mean that he was allowed to do that, and even though he didn't go to Bezdin. So it's a question on Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that you're not allowed to take the law into your own hands. So the Gemara answers, Hachab maya skinan, what are we dealing with? Skinan means dealing with. Hacha means here. Remember that. That's an important one. Hacha b'mai, with what? Askinan. Mai means what, right? Doesn't mean why. A lot of people think mai means why because it ends the same, but it's actually mai means what. Amai with an aleph means why, but b'mai means with what. Here, bi is with, right? Here, with what are we dealing? Ba'avda ganva. We're dealing with a slave that is a thief. Could be a common phenomenon to people who have house help, that they may be a thief. And so therefore there's a loss. And remember that Rabbi Yehuda is maida that if there's a loss, you're allowed to take the law into your own hands. So the Gemara asks the question, Ad ha'idna, until now. Loi ganav, he didn't steal. V'hashta ganav, all of a sudden you have a thief on your hands. How are you creating this scenario where you have a loss because all of a sudden he became a thief, and now you're hitting him to leave? What happened all this time? So the Gemara answers, Ad nahave aim seiderabi aleh. Aim means the fear. Until now, ad until now, havas there was. Aim seiderabi, the fear of the master. Aleh, on him. But hashta lesle aim seiderabi aleh. But now, hashta is now. Like hashta bagala. Hashta, now, less, it means there is not. Whoops. There is not. Aim seiderabi aleh, the fear of the master on him. Okay, so we have our answer. Our main answer was that there's a loss. Let's change the color, so we'll put that back. This is the main answer. That's avda ganva, that there's a loss. We only asked that, well, why all of a sudden does he become a thief? So we explained that until now he actually had a job. He was working as this slave. He was getting paid for that. Well, he kind of got paid before, and to pay back his debt or whatever. But he had a boss. He had a master, and now he doesn't. Because his time is up. He has to leave anyway. But the master wants him to leave. He doesn't want him to take anything before he actually leaves the house. So he's hitting him to go, and that's considered a loss. So he was allowed to take the law into his own hands. Maybe he should go to Bezdin. Maybe we can answer that if we go to Bezdin, maybe we wouldn't know what he took, or he just wants him out of there. Okay, Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak Reb Nachman Yitzchak gives another teretz. We had Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak before, if you remember, right over here. He said, Mishaber v'nichnas. Now we have Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak again. He's going to answer Be'eved shemasli Rabbi Shifcha Kananis. We're dealing with a slave, Eved, a slave. Sorry, shemasar loy. Masar was passed to him. Rabbi, his master, Shifcha Kananis. Shifcha Kananis is the non-Jewish maidservant in order to have slave children, and they would belong to the master. And the halacha would be that adhu idna, until now, idna is now hetera. It was permissible. Hetera is like mutter. It's permissible. Vahashta, but now isura. Now it's forbidden, and therefore he's allowed to hit him because he may be committing a sin if he was going to stay with this maidservant. So in order to prevent that sin, he's allowed to hit him to leave. That would be different than just taking the law into your own hand for your own things. This is actually to prevent the sin from occurring.